Scanning. Welcome to BigGunner81 Live, everyone. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Negligent Munitions. They're a manufacturer of polymer-coated projectiles that offer the benefits of jacketed projectiles at a fraction of the cost. The best part, they're made here in the U.S. in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Check them out at egglestonmunitions.com. I also like to thank BAT Arms. They're a federally licensed firearms dealer located in Plain, Illinois with hours by appointment. Check them out at batarms.com for all your shooting needs. And our newest sponsor, Tier 1 Training Company out in Indiana. You can check them out at tier1training.com for, of course, all your training needs. And tonight we've got a decent show lined up for you here. Of course, I just realized my video stopped playing because I hit the stop button. So, welcome everybody. Tonight we've got, oh, Patrick's with us too. He just jumped on. All right, cool. Hey, Patrick.
Yeah.
Patrick, One Shot Kill Media. Ryan Wiggins, our in-house gunsmith and match director. And we've got Thomas Kroll from Alpha Training Concepts or Alpha Concepts Training.
Alpha Concepts Training.
There we go. And you're out here in Illinois with us as well, where I'm at. So welcome, everybody. Before we begin, I also want to mention, too, we're going to be doing a drawing tonight for the giveaway. You guys can still, out there listening, can go ahead and still share this with your friends on our Facebook page here, BigGunner81, which is facebook.com/BigGunner81. We have a American Defense Manufacturing bolt carrier group that we're going to be giving away tonight. Thanks to Madeline Stewart and her father, Thomas Stewart, who were on our show last week. They were able to set us up with that from their sponsor, American Defense Manufacturing, and it's on this page, our Facebook page here. I'm going to share that real quick so you guys can see the giveaway. If you're still out there listening, go ahead and check them out right here on the Facebook and share it and so forth, and we'll draw a little bit later in the show. Also want to mention this tonight too. I've got some new targets I'll be testing out very soon here from Gunfighter Targets. This is one of them, and I know Ryan knows these guys. He knows Carl, right?
Yep, I know Carl.
And
good guy.
Yeah, good guy. Because you just had him out in Tulsa, or you said too, with all his targets out there, right?
I got to get a sneak peek on some stuff.
Oh yeah, nice. I know that he kind of mentioned he's got some cool stuff coming out for sure. So this is a 4-inch steel knockdown target. It's kind of hard to show on the camera, but basically this is rated for 45 ACP as far as I understand, for pistol calibers and also for like birdshot. So they just kind of knock over like that, and they're hinged so the steel doesn't go flying off. Makes for really quick resets, especially for like competitive shooting. They're really nice. And of course I've also got a 6-inch one as well here. Basically same thing, only bigger. From gunfightertargets.com. Wow, super awesome stuff. So, yeah, let's go ahead and we're going to talk tonight about this with Thomas, a little bit about training and so forth and what he does with his company and all that. So tell us, Thomas.
Well, Illinois just passed a concealed carry a couple years ago. I was the 45th approved instructor in the state. It's something I'm passionate about, followed it really closely when bills were being argued on. And, basically what I focus on is a lot with concealed carry and defensive pistol, which is the evolution. Concealed carry classes, for the most part, are classes and not training. It's mostly classroom. So the defensive pistol is the next evolution, really learning how to interface with your firearm and know how to use it and malfunctions and things of that nature. And do a lot with beginners. I take great pride with teaching people that don't know the first thing and introducing them in a really safe manner, because what I've learned from a lot of people who are on the fence about guns, they may be anti-gun or on the fence or somewhat against guns because the first time they were introduced, some knucklehead put a 12-gauge shotgun in their arms when they were 10 years old, and now they don't like guns anymore. So
that's true. Almost my experience when I started out, by the way. I went with a 20-gauge shotgun. Started out BB guns, but then I went to 12-gauge for my first experience. It wasn't bad, but I can see where it'd be off-putting.
Sure, absolutely. So, I've had ladies come take my class where they've never fired a gun before and they were shy, and very timid with even touching the firearm. And by the end of the class, we had them shooting 1911 with 45 and loving it. We just worked them up from a 22, 380, 9mm, and just working them up to the point where they were shooting full load 45 ACP.
Right on with that. So, and just also for the guys out there that are watching us live, we do have a couple live chats that I'm monitoring too during the show. I forgot to mention this, by the way. So if you guys have questions for Thomas, feel free to ask them. The guys over at gunchannels.com. There's a few guys over there watching us right now, and also on YouTube as well. One of the guys commented already. He said, "Should I go ahead and give you my shipping address now for the Bolt Carrier group?" Nah, you might want to wait a little while. We'll see. Yeah. So besides the concealed carry and all that, what else? What else can you tell me about it? I mean, as far as what you do.
Well, I mean, on a side, like I said, I'm very passionate about the training. What makes me passionate about the training is just sharing my passion for firearms in general. I consider myself very much to be a gun rights advocate. I run a website, gunrightsforillinois.com. It's with the number 4. And basically, I'm constantly watching the news in regards to what's going on with firearms, what's going on with various different pieces of legislation that are being brought up. Maybe they're not coming up for vote, maybe they're up for vote. And I'm trying to share that and disseminate that as much as possible to to the public, so that they can understand our rights are being affected every day by the politicians that we elect, and also the news, what's going on with gun owners, legal and illegal gun owners. Let people know what's going on around them. I love doing that. Sharing that information is almost as powerful as sharing the training skills.
Right on. The other thing I was going to ask you, so how did you get started in shooting yourself? What's your background?
Well, the interesting story about the first time I actually shot a firearm, not a BB gun, was it was actually a 22 long rifle. I was at summer camp, and everyone was shooting BB guns, except I was such a dork, no one wanted to be my partner, so I got to partner with the counselor. Counselors were shooting 22s, and I've had a love affair with firearms ever since. Bought my first handgun when I was 21, you can't just have one. It's like the potato chips. You can't have just one. So everything has bloomed from there.
Yeah, I can understand that too, as far as the not having just one. I mean, it does grow into that sometimes, especially with AR-15s too. They're like Legos for guys or and girls too. Don't want to be not mentioning the ladies out there, because we got a lot of nice ladies that watch our show as well. Don't want to be offensive. So anyway, so that's kind of how you got into it and everything. And what do you? I don't know if you mentioned this already or not. What do you do for your own shooting stuff for your practice? Do you do competitions or anything?
I'm trying to get into competition because really it's a way to test your ability under stress. Now, when I'm doing my defensive pistol classes, I show up early, get everything set up, everything good to go, and then I run myself through the drills because I can shoot on the move. I've got rent the whole range. I can shoot on the move. I can draw, which are things you can't do on a static range, which is why anyone who is going to carry a firearm or even have a firearm in their house for home defense needs to practice. Not just standing at a booth shooting, but doing things and shooting on the move. And I practice that myself. But I'll tell you, the number one most powerful thing I do for my personal practice is, I have a CERT training pistol, and I recommend them to everyone. Because if I'm sitting there watching TV, I can train, sight alignment, trigger press, and to the point where the muscle memory is there. The only way I'm going to forget it is if I stop it because it's a perishable skill, or I lose a finger. Then I'll have to just switch fingers and start over. Of course, I take other instructors' classes because I don't know it all. I don't profess to know it all. For as good as I may think I am, there's always going to be someone better, and people will have different techniques that I might want to include in my own bag of tricks. So
yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I understand, like, especially from what you're saying as an instructor, it's good to keep your skills up, and how else you can do that by not, other than taking someone else's classes and continuing your training and your practicing and everything. That makes
absolutely.
You know.
I got a question.
Sure, go ahead, Ryan.
I got a question and a story as to why I have a question. So, what do you think about playing loud, distracting noises or music in the background, or flashing lights, or telling someone wrongful information on purpose during a training exercise? Do you use anything like that?
I do noises and things like that in my day 3 class, but the way I have my defensive pistol set up is 1, 2, 3. Day 1, we're really kind of building the basics. We're not really doing a lot of moving. Day 2, we're doing a lot of moving based upon everything we learned the first day. Day 3, it's like Bizarro World. We throw everything out the window. We're doing, offhand techniques, one-handed techniques, and that's when I start to introduce noises. I also will come up behind them, and in a very safe manner, I have to make sure everyone's aware of, I'll shake them. And that's a great way to see, how they'll react if, you kind of sort of startle them in a safe way. So those are things I think it's important for students and shooters to be experienced to, not in a real-life situation, but be introduced to in a controlled, safe environment, because, when the bullets start flying, all the rules go out the window, and we don't want them learning, in those situations. We want them learning in a controlled, safe situation.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned earlier about the shooting in like a static position, I think you said, like from in a bay. Yeah, the moving and shooting is definitely a beneficial thing, and a lot of times you can't get that, at an indoor range, especially in the suburban area like we're in. That's why I like being a member of the Aurora Sportsman's Club, because I can go out there, we can move and shoot and things like that. But if you're not a member, as you mentioned about some of the competitions, I know Patrick was also out there with us doing 3-gun as well this summer. But competitions sometimes are a good way to get that practice in too, in a different environment where you got a little more stress, because, like you said, because of the time that's going, the time limit, and you got multiple targets, different areas. It just adds the stress to it, and it lets you move and shoot and stuff like that for people who maybe not have, or may not have the option of going to an outdoor range otherwise. So, just figured I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because when I was in the Navy, we did something for guys that wanted to be on the security reaction forces. They went through a little course that involved shooting in the dark and moving and flashing lights and screaming noises in the background and gunshots in the background, and they're flipping the lights on and off and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty effective, because most of the guys that were coming through were pretty new to shooting, and it was a very mind-opening experience for them.
Right on. So what kind of recommendations do you have for, well, actually, before I get into that question, I saw a comment too. The CERT pistols that you were talking about, I've seen them before. They usually only come in a Glock, right? Or do they come in anything else?
I believe that they're releasing, or they possibly have released. I'd have to check with Next Level Training. They're the maker.
Those are sweet.
They're the maker of the CERT pistol. I believe it's coming out in the Smith & Wesson M&P line. I don't know if it's out yet. I do know I read a press release saying they were working on it, and that was approximately a year ago, so it could be out. And it's a good point that you mentioned that, because, yeah, I actually bought a Glock because I bought a CERT that was based on a Glock. It's amazing how close, actually, the CERT mimics in size and feel and weight and everything, and just the trigger press and everything. It's so amazing to me how closely they've mimicked that. But I'll be honest with you, that's what caused me to buy the Glock, was the CERT.
There's my Glock right here that I have right now. My Glock 17 keychain.
Nice. Is that the red one with the green and the red laser?
One that I shoot personally is the red indicating and the green laser. That's my personal one that I bring to classes. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little over possessive of that one, because it does cost a little more than the basic ones.
Yeah, it does.
Basic are red. And they're about $150, and I've had students drop them, and I've had to realign them. So, and they're plastic slide, whereas mine is a metal slide, which more realistically mimics the weight. But it costs a little bit more, so I'm a little bit more hesitant who I allow to play with that. But I recommend anyone that is going to get the cert, honestly, if you can afford it. Obviously, if you can't, don't go into debt. But if you can afford it, get yourself the Pro model. It's worth the money in terms of the weight and the 2 different color lasers.
So here's a question for you too. What do you use, or what do you recommend? Well, actually both. What do you use for an everyday carry pistol for your concealed carry?
Sure.
And what do you recommend for people?
Well, I'll answer the question, what do I recommend first, and the answer is I don't. And let me explain that. I got students in every single one of my classes. What should I get? What should I buy? And all I can tell them is what I carry, what works for me may not work for you. My hands are a different size. I contain recoil differently. My fingers are a different length. My body size is different, so maybe I can conceal a little bit better. The best advice that I would tell anyone that's considering purchasing a concealed carry firearm is find the model that you think you want. First off, sit down, make a list of the features you think are important for you. Second, from that point, choose a few models. Then go to a gun store, pick them up, feel them, hold them. If you can't press the trigger, you're at the wrong gun store, so don't go to those big boxes that have trigger locks. From that point, go to a shooting range that will allow you to rent these firearms, and from there, you can decide what is the best one for you. And if you're in doubt, buy them both. I mean, why not? There's always a good reason to buy another gun. What do I carry personally?
Yeah.
I have the Ruger LC9, and I also have the LC380. I like the long, heavy, double-action, trigger press. And for all the reasons people don't like that particular firearm is all the reasons I do. I like having a manual thumb safety, and I like having a long, heavy, double-action trigger press. So I carry personally every day. Always carry, always armed. You never know when trouble will strike. So I carry the Ruger LC9.
Awesome. Yeah, like I was mentioning about joking around my first Glock there, I'm actually looking at picking up a Glock 19 later on this week myself. There's a small chance I might not, but it's a big chance that I'm going to be getting it for concealed carry purposes. Like I was mentioning, I think off air earlier about we had a shooting recently about 1.5 miles from my house. I'm like, you know what? I need to get something that I really want for everyday carry versus my full size SIG that I have now, because for carrying it every day is just not really a practical thing. Just what I have.
Which model SIG do you have?
Which model SIG? I have a 226. But the thing too is, not only is it a full size SIG, but I also have the flared magwell grips on it right now, and 20-round mags that stick out, which make it even more noticeable to try to conceal it.
Sure.
So I can always switch that back to the factory mags and the regular grips and stuff, but that only helps so much for the size of that gun to use it for concealed carry.
Well, again, it depends on your size and your frame and your body shape. I mean,
Yeah.
I met a gentleman today who was probably 7'2", and I'm not even kidding. My neck hurt as I was talking to him, and I'm just a inch shy of 6 foot. So, what he can conceal, probably he'd have no problem with your 226, and you wouldn't even notice.
Right. Slide 1911 right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Man, I thought I was going to have to pull out my weapon real quick. Either UPS just dropped something off, or someone just checked my door to see if it was locked.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I had UPS visit me a little earlier today and brought me some primers. I was pretty excited about that for my reloading.
Great.
In fact, what's that?
What are you loading up?
Actually, just wanted to stock up because there was a good price through Cabela's actually on some primers from what was I gonna say? From I think it's like Cellar and Bellet. I think is it's called. I'm not sure I'm saying it right.
Yeah, you're probably not. You just call it S&B.
Yeah, S&B, there you go. They're primers. They were I think they worked out to be 2 cents a primer or something. So
Nice.
I hate to talk about prices because you never know. Things change and fluctuate and stuff. But I figure I'll give them a shot for the price. Plus they had free shipping and $15 off. So the $15 worked out to take off some of the money on the hazmat fee and all that. So it was okay, we'll go with it. But yeah, so UPS visited me today. Anyway, that's a side tangent. But you asked me what I was going to load up. I'm probably going to be loading up some more 9mm and stuff like that at some point. Some more idle munitions, projectiles,
To just to add on to what he was saying about what gun to choose and carry and stuff like that. Before I was distracted by someone touching my door. I worked in retail environments for a little while, and I think my favorite response to something like that is to choose what feels comfortable in your hands. He made some great points, but luckily we have a couple gun ranges here in Phoenix where you can walk in and rent a gun. And the two gun ranges I know of that rent guns, they have over 100 models on the shelf right there. So if you got like a woman that can't decide between a Glock 42 or a Smith & Wesson Shield or something, they can just go over and rent, pay a rental fee for an hour, use both guns in the hour, buy a box of ammo, and see which one they shoot better. So I think that makes people happy.
Right on. In here in Illinois too. I mean, I've been to a few different places that have rentals. The one thing I run into a lot, and I don't know if this is every range, and I'm not naming names or anything, but when it comes to like Illinois, like obviously like here in Illinois we have to have a FOID card to be able to buy ammo or possess firearms and things.
A what?
A FOID card.
What? That's the right answer. Is a what?
Yeah, that is the right answer. We shouldn't have a FOID. It's stupid, but I think it has no real point to it. Yeah, firearms owner identification card. Yeah.
FOID.
So anyhow, when you go to do a rental, you have to have one. But even more importantly, they make it so like a lot of places you have to have two people to do a rental. So you can't just like go in there by yourself and say, hey, I want to rent a gun and try it out and so forth. Even if you have, and you'd have to have a FOID card to do it. Some places will let you have the second person without a FOID card so they can try it out if they're new to guns and want to try something. But it makes it.
We were talking about that earlier, and the reason why a lot of those gun stores have come up with those policies is due to suicides on the range.
Correct. That's what
I was going to say, is that suicide prevention?
Yeah. It's a buddy thing. I think the whole idea behind that was you bring your buddy with you and you're way less likely to off yourself in front of one of your friends.
It's all that. It's super depressing out there. I can't even imagine.
There's one range that I know of where they'll allow you to rent the gun as long as you bring one with you. And the idea, the theory, is you're not going to off yourself with their gun if you have your own. So,
wow.
That's
interesting.
You're right. It's very depressing here.
I was looking at your website, gunrightsforillinois.com. I noticed you were talking about private party sales with 3-day waiting periods for handguns.
Yeah.
So does that mean you can just sell a gun to someone, take their money, get a bill of sale, but you have to wait 3 days to give them the firearm, or are you actually calling that in and doing some form of a background thing?
Well, the answer is yes to both, actually. They passed a law recently in Illinois, 2014, that requires that you check the validity of the FOID card, the Firearms Owner Identification Card. So either you have to call in or you go to the Illinois State Police website, you type in the FOID card number, it will tell you if it's still valid. From that point in time, you have 30 days. It's basically good for 30 days, and you have a 3-day waiting period, depending on who you ask, from the time the agreement is made, from the time money exchanges hands, from the time that the background check has taken place. You've got a 3-day waiting period, but that 3-day waiting period is for handguns, not long guns.
Yeah, 24 hours for long guns.
Right, 24 hours for long guns, 72 hours for handguns. And
when you go on the Illinois State Police website, I think it is, as I did this, I don't know, like last year, I think it was, whenever it first came out, whatever, when I bought my SIG, actually, from a coworker, they give you a transaction number that you have to record on the paperwork, but it doesn't tell them what you bought or what you transferred or sold, but obviously they know who the purchasee is because they have that number from their FOID card.
Sure. And the other thing I want to mention also about that is, a lot of people will say this is a toothless law, that, well, there's no penalty for not doing it. But actually that's not correct. There's no criminal penalty for not doing it. But if you do not perform this background check, you actually are opening yourself up to civil liability. I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be a lawyer, but I've read the law. If you have a question, everyone should have a criminal defense attorney. Ask your criminal defense attorney. But if you read the law, basically, if you do run the FOID background check using the Illinois State Police database, you have a shield now from civil liability should someone down the road use that firearm for nefarious acts. You know, they may have a FOID. You may have seen it, which was the law before 2014 that you have to see it. You still had to wait, the waiting period, but long story short, you can open yourself up to civil liability. So I recommend, you know, I don't like the law. We can work to change the law, but we have to comply with the law or we're no better than, you know, common criminal.
Which I'm going to show your webpage here, the gunrightsforillinois.com as well, so people can see this.
That's it, yeah, and that's the number 4, Gun Rights for Illinois. So I try to update this site as much as time will allow. I can probably add a new article almost every day. I don't, because I don't have the time to every day, but you know, generally speaking, there's always something going on.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you write right here is how to sell a gun and stuff on here and transfer it and so forth. Speaking of gun sales, too, Ryan, we were talking before about your experience at a recent gun show. I don't know if you want to share that or not. I didn't get the full story, but there was something about a negligent discharge. Yeah,
and I was sitting there in a booth for one of the shops I work at, and about, I don't know, 20 yards away, a guy managed to shoot his buddy standing next to him with a Tokarev.
Oh, snap.
So we don't really know too many details on the story. There was no follow-up on the news. I did a Google search, and I couldn't find anything. The guy had suffered non-life-threatening injuries, but apparently the Tokarev went in his somewhere around his hip and came out his opposite shoulder.
Ooh.
So
there was a lot.
Or a gun store?
This was at a gun show, and I don't want to go into too many details. I know it's still under investigation,
Right.
but basically, the gun appears to have been loaded as it was as it made its way from one building to another, and yeah, luckily the guy didn't die. There was a lot of people standing around. There were kids nearby.
Oh man!
I mean,
so
came out of shoulder.
He was shot in the hip. Like how was he shot exactly? So, say it again.
From what I was told, is that it went in one hip, one side of his chest, and it came out somewhere around his shoulder.
Wow.
And they confirmed that it had punctured 2 lungs and bounced off of his spine.
But non-life-threatening injuries, even with lungs being punctured.
Well, yeah, sucking chest wounds and stuff like that it's better if you didn't get shot in the heart or all the way through his guts. I mean,
Gotcha.
It could have been worse.
So let me ask you this: what happened when after that happened? Like, what actually transpired at the gun show? Did everything just stop and like, what happened?
Well, kind of, man. Honestly, like I was 20 yards away. I thought it was a black cat. I mean, I had the means nearby me to protect myself if needed be. But I thought it was a black cat. I turned and I looked, and no one was really moving, so I went back to talking to this guy, and then all of a sudden a woman's voice yelled out, 911, I need an IV. And so everyone started yelling across the gun show for an IV. The guys next to me were 20-year firefighter veterans. Lots of people on scene. I mean, every tactical guru in the house had at least one IFAK on him. So he had bandages on him, and IV was in him within a minute probably. And they brought him out of there. But those little Stoker's are gnarly. It's a little tiny round that likes to poke through stuff.
So did they shut down the show, or they just kept going after that?
No, they just taped it off while I was under investigation, and they were investigating the scene for about 5 hours. Multiple agencies.
Wow, interesting.
You know, I just want to point something out. You did mention it's a negligent discharge, and it's absolutely just a failure to follow the safety rules. You said one person shot another. I mean, don't finger off the trigger, and don't point the firearm at anything you're not willing to shoot. I mean, it's just basic. So obviously, the guns don't just go off his fingers on the trigger. We obviously know that. And obviously, it was pointed at his friend, which it never should have been pointed at anyone. So just complete failure to follow the basic safety rules, and it's a good thing that that no one passed away. I mean, I couldn't imagine how he would feel having killed his friend. I mean, I'm sure he feels like a jackass having shot his friend. But you know, I mean, just anyone listening to this, you know, please just finger off the trigger. Guns don't just go off by themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting situation that day. It kind of ruined the mood. I feel like it actually it affected the gun show as a whole.
Yeah, I could see that. Being a definite killer to well, that's not a good term to use, I guess. I'm always throwing fun.
My wife, I had to work that booth on Sunday, and my wife was going to come down and hang out with me. I texted her and I was like, "Hey, are you still going to come down and hang out on Sunday?" And she's like, "No, not enough people are shooting guns in there," and she didn't come with me.
Yeah, exactly. They can totally
it's actually I've heard a couple industry guys say the same thing, that it's almost surprising that those kinds of things don't happen more often. But
right.
I'm glad that it doesn't. But if you saw some of we have very, very, very loose gun laws here in Arizona, and they have to be, respected. But if you saw some of the cats that came through our gun shows, man, you could make a website out of it.
It'd be like the Walmartians, except for guns.
Exactly what I was going to say. Peopleofgunshows.com.
People of Arizona gun shows.
Hey, I'm going to go Daddy and register that.
Oh, man.
There you go. Patrick, you could do the one-shot kill it media.
We got a lot there.
So, wasn't someone mentioning another accidental discharge earlier about, or a negligent discharge, I should say, about a girl? Who was it that mentioned that?
I was talking about that.
Oh, that was you. I don't know if you could talk about that or not.
I probably should.
Okay, we'll pass on that.
But again, there may or may not have been a negligent discharge in one of the facilities in which I work.
Okay, fair enough.
It's firearm safety. I mean, you don't bring in a whole bunch of guns for sale and then just go start pulling triggers. Oh yeah, these aren't loaded. Boom. You don't just do that. So
guns are always loaded. Always loaded. You treat them.
They are
always loaded.
I try to tell people, especially like little kids, they're really easy to teach because they remember things better than I do. But I tell them that there's a laser beam coming out of the barrel, and it's like a really long lightsaber, and anything you touch with that long lightsaber has the potential to die. So I think it's a really good visual. Just imagine like a 30-foot lightsaber,
So how many little kids did you make cry there, Ryan?
With what?
With telling them that they're going to kill stuff with a laser light beam in front of their guns.
I word it differently.
Okay. I don't know, just funny. But I get what you're saying. I think it's a great idea, though, to try to get that started early on and explain it. How else are you going to?
Kids love me. I got a beard.
Exactly.
Like a young Santa Claus.
That's what I was gonna say. You got it.
Yep.
What I actually did with my own son is he had a cap gun, and I snuck a cap into his cap gun when he wasn't looking. And when he pulled the trigger and it startled him, I explained to him, I said, "See, it's always loaded." I thought it was unloaded. I said, "I know you did, but you have to always think it's always loaded." And he's 5 years old. But I've been teaching both of my children since they can listen. Stop, don't touch it, tell an adult. The NRA teaches run away, stop, don't touch it, run away, tell an adult. But I think that's wrong to scare them. You run away from things that scare you. So stop, don't touch it, tell an adult. And then, I've built on that and trying to teach them, as they're getting older and comprehend more, teach them. And like I said, you put a cap in a cap gun, it's going to scare the bejesus out of them when they pull that trigger and it goes off. And they'll remember that. Then you follow up with a little talk about how, yeah, you didn't think it's loaded. What was a real gun and you didn't think it was loaded? Guns are always, always loaded.
I was just glancing over our comments here on Gun Channels, and a couple of steps back, they were laughing about the People of Gun Shows website. And then they mentioned about great trick with the cap gun. That's a great learning experience. And,
yeah, that is sharp. I like that.
Yeah, I think so too. And also the comments about the interesting rental rules we were talking about here in Illinois that we've experienced as well on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, you guys know where the YouTube channel is because you're watching it. So, but yeah, if you haven't checked out Gun Channels, go over to gunchannels.com and check them out. They're basically like a Facebook for like people with gun channels that want to either watch content and chat about it, or have a YouTube channel or something that they want to promote and put on there. It's kind of like a social networking type place, sort of, for all types of media and people to get together that like guns. So gunchannels.com, and they have a live chat all the time, 24 hours a day, running, and sometimes even Google Liner Hangouts that you can jump in on and talk with people as well. So check them out. And since it's about, well, we're about halfway mark, a little past the halfway mark of the show, so we're going to go ahead and do this drawing real quick here for the ADM the American Defense Manufacturing bolt carrier group that we've got on the page here. What I'm going to do this time is something a little different. I'm going to go ahead and do this random number generator thing and draw it that way, and we'll see who wins. So let me bring up our Facebook page here, and I'll see how many people we've got entered right now. I think we've got like 14, 15 people. So this is where I'm going to go to. Do a screen share so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I just went to this random.org, which does a random number generator here. And so let's see who's going to be the one to win this. Whoever's our 10th person on our list. So I'm going to go through here. Skip one that has double entry. So oh, okay, Gene Vo's on here. All right, cool. I'll get in contact with him and go ahead and get this out to him.
Congratulations, so, Gene.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually do know Gene personally, too. Nice. Just by coincidence. But anyhow, we'll get that going for him. So, yeah, congratulations, Gene. Very cool.
How much did he pay you?
Nothing. That's seriously a random number generator right there. I only skipped one person on there because they have a double entry on that page. As you guys saw, Rob has 2 entries on there because he wrote 2 comments, but you only get 1 entry, so I just skipped over 1. So counting 10 people down, I'll do it again. Make sure to mess up. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, Gene. So there you go.
Boy, Gene would have been upset if he messed up.
Yeah, right. Just double checking my counting there. So that's what we go with. So anyway, what else are we going to cover? We talked a little bit about what kind of gun and stuff, but what about holsters and stuff too for concealed carry and any type of tactical type gear or anything like that you can recommend or thoughts on it in general for anybody?
You know, the word tactical, it's a strange word, and the joke is you paint something black and double the price, and that's what tactical means. Obviously there's more to it than that, but I try to keep the word tactical as much as possible out of my vocabulary, when I'm doing my defensive business.
Fair enough.
A lot of people would consider those a tactical class, but, as far as tactical gear goes, I don't get much into the high-speed, low-drag type gear. I'm more covert, more concealed, more for the everyday kind of guy. So, that's out of my realm of expertise to discuss.
Okay, so what about the concealed carry holsters, though?
Sure. You're going to laugh, and that's okay, because I giggle when I think about it, but I actually carry a ladies' holster.
Really? What? So explain that. What do you consider a ladies' holster, and what is it?
Well, it's marketed for ladies. I forget exactly who makes it, but it actually literally is marketed for ladies. Actually, it's designed for people with high hips, which I actually have. And I've tried several different holsters, and I figured out what the hell, I'll give it a shot. And I bought a few different holsters and wore them around for a while. And this one just, quite honestly, is the most comfortable for my body and my hips, just the way it's cut. Choosing a holster is the same thing as choosing a firearm. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. And quite unlike a firearm where we may collect 3, 4, 5, 10, I think I just read 8 is the average gun owner owns 8 firearms. But regardless, we may collect firearms by choice. We almost collect holsters by necessity because we might buy 5 before we find the one that we like.
That's true.
So the best thing you can do is first determine your mode of carry. Are you going to carry on person, off person? Obviously that's going to depend upon many factors, which we could probably cover a whole show about that. So determine your mode of carry. Determine your method of carry, where you're going to actually carry. If it's on your body, is it going to be a hip? Is it going to be shoulder? Is it going to be ankle? And then from that point, you're going to have to just experiment. There's no way around. You're going to have to buy a few holsters and experiment. And, you know, the good news is there's such a market for holsters, you could probably sell the ones you don't like on Gunbroker or something like that.
And that's not funny. It's almost like buying underwear or something. It's something that's personal, selective for you, you know. And you got
Absolutely.
And it also goes along with what kind of gun you're carrying too, and all that kind of stuff too. I don't know if you ever seen this. I've got one to try out from N8 Squared Tactical right here, which you can't really see the decal, but it's in this bag. I don't know if you've ever seen that, and it's like N8 Tactical, N8 Squared for my 226. Really nice holster. I just haven't had a chance to do a review on it yet, but that was actually from TacDaddy.com or TacDaddy.com or TacDaddy on YouTube. I was on a show and he set me up with that to try out, which is very nice of him. So I have to thank him again for it. But you can check that out. But yeah, there's so many different options.
One thing that if you're going to have a holster, I don't care who makes it, I don't care if it's leather, I don't care if it's Kydex, I mean, I don't prefer nylon, but the bottom line is if it doesn't cover the trigger guard, it's not a holster, it's an accident waiting to happen. There's some holsters out there, holster manufacturers have some lines of holsters that do not cover the trigger. Some of them partially cover the trigger. If it doesn't completely cover the trigger on both sides, don't buy it. That's my personal opinion.
Right on. And you know what? Have you seen? I'm sure you've seen this probably. That one that's like supposed to be like a holster or whatever you call it. That like it's like a little thing you stick in the end of the barrel and it wraps around it like a little sling. And it has no trigger guard. What's that?
The Versa Carry.
It might have been called that. I don't remember. It was like I don't remember the name, but I'm like I could not believe it. And like, is this a spoof? Is this a joke? Doesn't cover up the trigger or nothing. And speaking of triggers, and I know Ryan's seen this. Have you noticed a trend with the people cutting off their trigger guards?
The first time I saw it, I thought it was a joke.
There's been more than one picture, and if it means that somebody's doing it. What's that?
That's got to be a joke.
Well, there's one of a Glock with no trigger guard that's floating around out there, but there was one that was like somebody actually posted a sale ad. I think it was like for a Springfield Armory. I don't know if it was an XDM or something, or their compact model or whatever. And the front of the trigger guard, like the very front of it, was just like, you know, where it comes up. The bottom part of it was still there, but the top was cut off, like right in front of the trigger. I was like, what the heck are these people thinking? You know, like literally, there's got to be somebody out there that's stupid enough to do that. I mean, even if
dropping weight, trying to gain some horsepower.
Yeah.
The only thing I think of is that, you know, if you take your pistol, stick your finger in it, and just real fast, you can make it shoot real quick. You could probably do it even faster without that front trigger guard, you know?
Yeah.
You like knife hand.
Somebody actually made a fixture for doing a bump fire with a pistol. It was like a wooden thing they put up against their chest and had like a little peg on it, and they kind of pushed it forward and let it bounce on the peg, and it was like, wow, that's retarded, but it's kind of it works, I guess, and if they're doing it safely, I don't know, whatever. But
I think the guy. You heard of Birdman Industries?
No, I have not.
Back in the day, you could get like do-it-yourself flare kits for your M203 or 39mm grenade launchers.
Yeah.
But he was doing the thing for a little while. He had the $20 50 cal with the Mountain Dew suppressor, but he was doing the thing with the Glock sights on the side of the slide.
Oh, weird.
It's like, I can see that in the same handbook.
That makes sense. So, what was the other thing we were going to mention? There was something else that you guys triggered my thought on about this, and I can't even remember what it was now. It was something related to that stuff with people and their guns and whatnot we mentioned earlier, but anyway.
Oh, you're so vague sometimes.
No kidding, right? And distracted a lot of times too. That's the other part of it. But I thought there was something else we're going to add as far as that goes with the stupid stuff with people doing with their selling guns. You mentioned about the accidental discharge or negligent discharges. I keep wanting to say accidental, but negligent.
Yeah, don't say that.
Yeah, because there really isn't, such a thing.
1 out of 1 million might be an accident.
But what determines an accident?
Well, let's say you send your firearm off to a gunsmith to have repaired, and he does something on his behalf, and you're trusting him. You receive it back, and the gun could. I mean, you can have a slam fire or something like that. Obviously, if it's pointed at someone, well, you're negligent, not following the rules. But
there you go.
You know,
Negligent discharge.
well, sure. Like I said, 1 in 1 million.
Accidental discharge, so like you disable safeties on a 1911, you remove some stuff and you give it a 1-pound trigger pull, the kind of trigger pull that will break the sear from the hammer upon a sudden and abrupt impact. The gun has a mechanical malfunction and discharges. That is an accidental discharge. If your finger goes bang, that's negligent.
Yeah.
I agree.
You were in control of that situation and you just screwed it up.
So if you drop a gun and somehow it goes off,
that would be accidental.
Okay, fair enough.
But guns don't really do that. I mean, we could probably find a couple guns we could get to do that, like tricked out race guns or old ass guns.
That's what it was. You tricked
What?
Sorry, Thomas, we didn't hear you there.
Yeah, it could happen with an old gun. All the modern firearms are going to have a hammer block or a sear block to prevent that from happening.
Exactly. I was going to mention that too, but you triggered my memory now, Ryan, about race guns. Earlier we were talking about something about using a race gun for defensive purposes. That's what I wanted to bring up. So tell your synopsis, your story of whatever you're mentioning.
My story about the 14 criminals coming up while you're playing with your STI open gun.
Yeah, that one.
I think you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. Even if there's 14 dudes coming at you and you pull out this open gun with a 22-round magazine and you put a bunch of 38 super comps into these guys, I think you still have to worry about like legal repercussions.
I think you have to anytime you have to pull a trigger in a offensive purpose.
I don't think the district attorney's office wants you shooting people with Seymour sights and compensators.
Yeah, it's frowned upon when you have something that's any more deadly than a regular gun, right? And that's how they look at it. I mean, I don't think
that's a great point, because there's two trains of thoughts. One train of thought is don't modify your firearm at all because it's going to be used against you in a court of law, and then the other train of thought is it's okay, you can modify your firearm, you're making it safer, you're making it more accurate, whatever. The lawyers I've spoken with are every single lawyer that I've discussed this topic with, and it has been quite a few, have all said, do not modify your firearm at all. It will be used against you. I mean, even if you're in the right, I'm sorry?
Especially in your state. It's a little bit more like that. But
in Crook County, Illinois, I mean, the bottom line is they're going to find anything they can use against you. If you've got hollow points, they're going to call them man killers, evil man killers.
Exactly.
That's not going to stop me from having hollow points in my firearm, but it just, to hammer home a point is anything that they can figure out a way to tarnish, you. And it goes also kind of on a tangent, the same idea of my house is protected by Smith & Wesson, or trespassers will be shot, survivors will be shot again. I mean, that stuff is cute and everything is good for a chuckle, but you're not going to find that on anything on my Facebook pages, or I don't have any shirts like that, no bumper stickers, because that's going to be used against you as well.
Yeah, hang on, I'm reloading type bumper sticker or whatever. It sounds that way, like you're being aggressive about it, like you're waiting for a fight to come to you. And that's not what you want, and that's not what from what I've heard and seen anyway, from my opinion, most gun owners are not like that. The other part, what was it?
I think a lot of that's just playing into the PC bullshit situation that we're in as America, though. It's like, okay, I'm not going to express myself in the very slim chance that I have that I might have to use my defensive pistol. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. On both ends here, like you gotta always protect yourself and your interests and so on, but everybody needs to stop being such a goddamn pansy about this shit. It drives me up the wall.
I understand where you're coming from when it comes to that, but the other thing is the ammo. What's that stuff called? Is it G2, something or other? That's like a segmented projectile. Ryan, have you seen that?
The rip rounds.
Yes, the rip rounds.
Yeah.
Man, if you could have had a couple thousand of those last year, you would have made a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I was hearing on another YouTube channel. I was watching a show. I forgot what it was called though. The other night, they had mentioned what's the guy's name? I think his last name's Santola, whatever. Who has a show? I can't think of the name of the show now. But anyway, I think it was the other night he was on, and they were talking about that ammo on there. Like, yeah, if you take that ammo and you're using it for defensive purposes, they're gonna like shred you in court over it because the whole marketing strategy is like, yeah, it's gonna do more damage to a person, by using this ammo and stuff, and they're gonna use it against you.
I don't really agree.
That's where ballistic testing comes into play. But I guess facts aren't legit when it comes to court.
I don't agree that round is a superior round for self-defense, but I haven't shot anyone with it, so I can't tell from first-hand experience. But if I'm going to have to use a firearm in a self-defensive situation or whatever situation where you're shooting someone, I want the most force and energy distribution, or hydrostatic shock, I think they call it, applied into a certain area for each hole. The whole concept behind that round is it breaks off into 4 little segments, and there's like little razors poking through your body. So that's cool. 4 little razor blades poking through a chest cavity isn't going to do what I want, I don't think. I think
the cavitation or whatever is not going to happen.
I think 2 or 3 9mm or 40 or 45 nicely made hollow points that are going to open to a point where they're not going to exit your threat and injure something that's a non-threat, like a bystander. And I think that's justification for hollow points in most modern trials. I mean, you shoot someone with a full metal jacket in a self-defense situation, you got some stuff to worry about. If you put a hole in someone's building, you're going to get sued. That actually happened here in Phoenix. But
wow,
applying the most amount of shock to a certain area, I think, is key to getting yourself away from a deadly threat, rather than poking a whole bunch of holes through someone, and that's going to rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills because you got 4 holes poked through their lungs. It's different when they're just stopped. But
well, and that brings up an interesting point. In my classes, people will ask, how many times should I shoot? Well, actually, what I tell them is you shoot to stop the threat, and that might be 1, that might be 2, that might be 3. You shoot to stop the threat. When the threat is done, then you're done. You might shoot till it's empty, and you might have to reload. Hopefully not. If they've taken my class, they won't have to reload. But, bottom line is you shoot to stop the threat, and it just so happens is your goal is not death. But death is probably going to be a side effect of stopping a threat.
But going back, I mean, if a woman felt threatened and she emptied an entire magazine into a guy and went to trial, I think that the outcome of that trial might have different influences. I don't know how to word this. Or if you or me did that. If you or me emptied 15 rounds of 40 cal into a guy that was coming after us, I think we might be looking at some trouble in court where a female might have a totally different outcome.
I mean, I kind of agree with you. Obviously, what you need to be able to do, on the advice that lawyers have given to me, is you need to be able to articulate why you did your actions. Now, obviously, I don't recommend speaking to the police. Allow your lawyer to do that, but you have to be able to explain it to your lawyer so your lawyer can explain it to the police. You need to be able to articulate why that was the rational thing to do. Allow your lawyer to do it on your behalf, but if you have a valid reason, I mean, if that's what it takes to stop the threat, the guy wouldn't go down, he's on PCP, then so be it. I mean, that's what it takes. Don't fear oh my God, I'm putting too many rounds into this crackhead. I mean, it takes what it takes. On the flip side, it's interesting, you mentioned 15, 16 shots. That's recently what a police officer put into a person, and he's being charged criminally for it. But the facts of the case are he shot approximately 14 of those rounds as the person was laying motionless on the ground. So again, being able to articulate why you did what you did, I mean, one can argue he was not justified and the threat was down. It is what it is. I'm not the judge or the jury to decide that.
Right on. That's
so you
right.
just got to get 14 of them off real quick before the guy hits the ground.
If that's what it takes.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's you don't want to go overboard.
If you have to defend yourself, there's a really good chance that you're going to court, and it's going to cost a lot of money.
Anytime you got to pull your gun out on somebody, that's a very good chance. Even if you don't pull the trigger, you never know, you know?
Well, actually, thanks for bringing that up, because there was a guy in Peoria just a day or two ago, Peoria, Illinois. He got in an argument over a parking space, and I only know what the newspaper reported, but I just read it this morning, as a matter of fact. He got in an argument over a parking space in Peoria, Illinois. He is a licensed concealed carry holder, so he did go through the training and had a license. And he thought the prudent action would be to brandish his firearm. He did not fire a shot. He did not fire a shot. He brandished, and he has been arrested, and charges are being pressed for this action. So, it is what it is. If you're that kind of guy that you think that the proper, again, I'm going on what the newspaper said. Perhaps he was threatened. Perhaps he was, violence was threatened against him. Maybe he felt justified. I don't know the particulars, but if you're arguing with someone and you think that a good way to solve this argument is to show them your gun, then do every law-abiding gun owner a favor and turn in your concealed carry license now, because you're going to ruin it for the rest of us.
Right. Amen to that. So, on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Do you guys got anything else you want to add real quick, Ryan?
No, now you got me thinking about like shooting zombies and tweakers and stuff with open guns.
I think you got that thought going. You guys brought up the race guns and using it for defensive purposes.
Play some video games.
All right, Patrick, you got anything you want to throw out there? I know you got a giveaway going on too for the 10,000 giveaway that's been going on your page.
Yeah, just working on that so far. It's kind of just like I have been doing the last few weeks, just really spending a lot of time creating content and getting it out there.
And I've seen the barrel you posted up too. That's cool.
Oh yeah, man, that thing is badass.
It is. Who makes the barrel again?
That's Faxon Firearms that makes
awesome.
that one. It's their 18-inch fluted flame barrel. Just a really unique design. Not just your straight-on flutes and stuff like that, but really like a twisted sort of look. It's badass, man. It looks great. So, just kind of excited for that stuff coming down the line, and then hopefully thinking about making a couple different inventory changes here for the some of the stuff coming up for next year, like the competitions and stuff like that down at Aurora Sportsman Center.
Right on.
And then,
Sportsman's Club.
Same thing, whatever.
Right.
But, I'm working on it. But yeah, man, just thinking about making a couple changes for that sort of stuff. I've really been digging the Arsenal Firearms Strike 1, just a badass pistol, man. I just love shooting that thing. So I've been kind of judging between that, maybe a Glock of some sort. I don't know. It's a toss-up at this point, so we'll see what happens.
Very cool. So they can find your stuff at facebook.com/one-shot-kill-it-media. Is it one-shot-kill-it-media LLC? Go ahead and say it.
Yeah, for my Facebook page, it's just facebook.com/one-shot-kill-it-media. I tried to keep it as short as possible, man, but it's just like some of those names, if you want to differentiate yourself these days, everybody's got something on there that's short and sweet, so. And use the long one. Yeah.
Yeah, so you LLC at the end on YouTube, don't you?
Yeah, I believe so, man. It's been a minute since I even looked at that, but it's I tried changing it to it's LLC and official behind that, because I think something else is already blocking that out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but it's kind of nuts, man. But with this, it's just right now for me, the way it displays on my computers is like the whole just 20 different odds and ends type characters. I changed it a while back, and it doesn't display that way to me, so
yeah.
Who knows?
So, Thomas, you got anything else you want to throw out here before we shut it down?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for inviting me on. It's been a blast. I appreciate it, and any of my students might be watching. I want to say see you on the range.
And one last question too: where can they find you again if they want to get information on your classes and upcoming information stuff?
The website is Alpha Concepts with a K. Concepts is spelled with a K. I explain that in my classes, the purpose of that. So if you want to know, you got to go. All the social media, Alpha Concepts, Facebook, Twitter, Google, everything. Of course, gun rights for Illinois. Even if you're anywhere in the state and you can't make it up to the Chicago area to take a class, if you just want to stay tuned in to what's going on in our state. It's gun rights for Illinois, and the 4 is a number.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for you guys for being on with us tonight. I want to mention one more thing too before we shut down. We're going to do another giveaway this week. Very shortly, I'll post some details on that on my Facebook at facebook.com/BigGunner81. It's going to be for, I believe, I could be wrong, I believe it's a $50 gift certificate for Extreme Bullets. Thanks again to Madeline Stewart and Thomas Stewart and Extreme Bullets for that. Just like the bolt carrier group we gave away from American Defense Manufacturing, that was through them as well. They were awesome enough to donate that. Both the Stewarts and their sponsors, thank you very much for that. And to you guys out there watching, thanks for tuning in and checking out tonight's show. And again, I want to thank BAT Arms, our sponsors, or BAT Arms is one of our sponsors, and also Eggleston Munitions and our newest sponsor, Tier 1 Training, which is tyr1training.com. Toby's on here usually with us a lot of times now, but he couldn't be here with us tonight, fortunately. So anyway, check those guys out. There'll be links in the description below the video as always. And until next time, guys, again, thanks for watching. And next time, go out and have some fun shooting.